When we think about spirituality, the two main controversial themes are sexuality and money. Today, I want to focus on the theme of sex and why it is not compatible with spirituality. Or maybe it is compatible. The sexual energy is actually the creative force in nature. It is that power which can create. It is so creative that it can even create new beings. How crazy and powerful is that? In the Hindu tradition, we can find plenty of references to the science of pleasure. Well, just think about the Kama Sutra. The Kama Sutra is a spiritual text which speaks actually about the art of pleasures and desires. If you look at some Hindu temples, you can see how they are decorated by Hindu deities which are in a physical union. Of course, these symbols and these texts don't speak just about sex, but it speaks about something much more deep. It speaks about a spiritual union, spiritual realization. But nevertheless, it is there, and it is one of the teachings which are available in Hinduism. Also, if we look at the four Purusharthas, or the four main goals or pursuits of a human being, we can see that Kama, or pleasure, is again one of them. What I want to say with that is that Kama, or pleasures, also in the form of sexuality, is very much present in the Hindu tradition, and it has its place. It is not demonized or something bad, definitely not from the devil. Why is it then that even in the Indian subcontinent, sexuality is often very much a taboo? Well, that is human beings and what they make out of it. And the suppression of this natural impulse can definitely be counterproductive, because you see on one side a big taboo, and on the other side it becomes a perversion. People having problems with themselves, with their own sexuality, having a very low self-esteem, and with that, of course, also our general relationships will suffer. So to understand sexuality in relation to spirituality, we first have to see the different aspects of what sexuality actually is, or what it is for. Every animate being has the first instinct to survive. And to survive, we need food. Once that instinct is satisfied, there's the second most important. That one is to procreate. Every animal seeks to feed and to procreate, to keep on the bloodline. In the same way like the animals, also human beings are on some level animals and try to keep the bloodline going. Even if we take the Puranas, the ancient scriptures, we can read how Lord Brahma, the creator, created his first sons, the Kumaras, his mind-born sons. And he gave them the duty to populate the world. But they being born of the Sattva Guna, they being born completely pure, they had no intention to get entangled in this material world, and made a vow of celibacy and dedicated their life to the worship and service of the Supreme Lord. So in this story we can again see that this world and this existence is related to procreation, and therefore is related with sexual interaction. So the first purpose of sexuality is to procreate. Secondly, sex is related to sense pleasures. And the more sense pleasures we have, the more there's an attachment created. An attachment to this material world. And the more we are attached to this material world, the more we have desires and the more we get lost in this material world. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Krishna says in chapter 3, verse 38, like the fire is evolved by smoke, like a mirror is covered by dust, like the embryo is covered by the amnion, so this whole world is covered by desires. Basically, he's saying that through desires, we are blinded and we can't really see who we truly are, our true nature, our true spiritual nature, and our purpose of life. The greater the pleasure is, the greater the attachment is. And that's why sexuality is one of the greatest attachments, because it can not just involve one of the senses, but all 5 senses. So the attachment which can be created through the sexual intercourse is very big, is very strong, and therefore it is very much clouding our perspective of who we truly are. And thirdly, sexuality creates relationships, bonds with other people. On our energetic bodies, on our energetic level, on a karmic level, everything is interlinked. And the more we are intimate with each another, the more we create bonds, the more we create links. They're like knots, which again bind us to each another and to this material world. So the 3 views and purposes of sexuality is firstly procreations, secondly sense pleasures, and thirdly establishing more relationships. Now, if we look those 3 points in relation to a spiritual life, we might already understand why sometimes sexuality is not very compatible with a spiritual or religious life. The first point of procreation is actually the only one which seems very neutral, because it is natural. And if somebody is living a householder life, is having a family, it is just normal and natural that to create a family, they will have sexual intercourse. And it can actually be something very, very beautiful, an expression of love towards each another. And there's actually a whole science of yoga which tells you how to attract higher souls, how you can prepare yourself. The second point which we mentioned about sexuality being a sense pleasure. As I said already in chapter 3 verse 38, Krishna says that desires which come from the pleasures of this world are the reason for our ignorance. And therefore, if you are striving to overcome this material world, to break free, to see clearly who you truly are and the purpose of your incarnation, then getting engrossed and tied up by this material world and by its pleasures is definitely not helpful. And thirdly, the creation of relationships and bondages amongst people. If you are on a spiritual path, if you are on a spiritual pursuit, you want to break free from this material reality. You want to break free from all the karmic relationships. You want to break free from all the karmic bondages. So you are actually not here to create new knots and new ties, but you are actually here to dissolve certain ties and certain knots. In itself, sexuality, like I said, is natural and nothing bad. It is what it is. Why is it then demonized and often seen as bad by people who are following a spiritual path? In my opinion, it is because for people to create a proper distance to something which is so strong embedded in us, which is so natural, such a natural impulse and drive, we need actually to create the opposite image of it and put it on a distant place. And also the tradition and path around might create rules and ways of living which shield us and guard us from the temptation. Like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the attachment for the sense objects and the sense pleasures can be easily given up outwardly, but inside the attachment might still persist. Only when one sees God, then this attachment is completely removed, and therefore a spiritual aspirant will try to focus his mind on God Himself all the time and shield himself from the temptations which are in those sense pleasures and all the bondage which comes with it. I hope you got a better idea about the relation between sexuality and spirituality, and that the taboo is something made by human being. There's nothing bad, it depends which choice you make in life and what you actually want. Jai Gurudev.